Doesn't matter. It's okay.
But you can speak and the people will know.
Yes, I'm not sure they can hear me. So, can anyone hear us? Okay, so they can, apparently. Then we wish you a good meetup. Our audience is very busy with drinks still, so we need a couple more minutes, I guess. They're over there. Was a difficult day, but maybe we'll try again on the break, we'll see. So for now, we wish you a great meetup, and good luck to the first speaker that you have.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Yes. Yeah. Ciao. Ciao. All right. Yeah, no, I say on another side. Okay, good.
Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to our meetup. Today we have two groups together, the PyLadies Munich chapter and PyMunich group, and we prepared a special meetup at Stylight for you. My name is Laísa Shaw and I'm one of the organizers for PyLadies Munich. Now I will pass to Anton, who organized PyMunich. Applause.
I am sure Lisa deserves more applause next time, so maybe after the talk, we try again. You should have some background. So we planned this epic meetup for like a month or so. We were looking for a host, for speakers, for everything. 1 week, or 10 days before the meetup, we're ready. And Lisa says, oh my God, I have COVID. Everything can go kaboom. Fortunately, her test was confirmed negative 5 days ago or so you're safe. But I was stressed, and Lisa made it, and I'm super happy about it. Next time I will do applause until my hands are in blood. I don't know, because I'm really happy to have her. Next, another thing. Why is this meetup so special? It is special because we are a huge crowd. We are two groups together. But apart from that, PyBerlin group is also having a meetup right now in Berlin at this same moment. And in fact, we had the bad timing, but I was showing this crowd, I was showing you getting your beers and pizza, and that audience in Berlin at this very same moment was shaking, waving their hands, which is cute. And I think we will try again on the next break. It's hard to synchronize, but we will try again. And it's cool. Also, PyLadies Berlin have a meetup today. So we can call it a global German Python day if you want. That's what makes it special. Then, for today, we have 3 talks scheduled. All talks are intense, interesting, fun, and we have really cool speakers. For instance, Nele over there, she traveled from Berlin to give a talk. I think that deserves an applause as well. We are also streaming this meetup live. That's why we have 2 microphones, one for stream, one for you. We will be trying hard for you streamers now to make it work. We are not sure you can even hear us, but we will fix it. We'll do our best. It will be all fine. So I think we also need to thank our host, Stylight, because this is an awesome location. So a round of applause for Stylight. Now, I don't want to talk any longer because we have big agenda. I will annoy you during the break, so be sure about that. For now, let's greet our first speaker, and you will tell a few words about the company. So here you go. Here is your mic.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. First of all, welcome for coming back to Stylight. I remember when I joined. It's been like 3 years now, and it was super fun seeing the office always crowded with meetups. And I'm also super happy to see this meetup happening again, and warm welcome to all of you. So my name is Cheptsov. I'm a software engineer working at Stylight, the current company where we at right now. So I would just like to say a few words about us, and maybe that would spark your interest on what we do and encourage for some potential future challenges. So Stylight is the online leading search platform when it comes to beauty, fashion, and design. So in other words, we are an affiliate marketing platform where we actually don't sell physical goods, but we sell traffic. Very similar to Google Shopping, you might think. Why is this interesting? So here at Stylight, we do work with Python a lot, and we are hardcore Python lovers, and that's one of the main reasons, let's say, that we host, or we love to host the Python meetups. And at the same time, you will also see where you are probably sitting some job announcements, which most of them are on Python, but on different sectors like machine learning, web development, data science, and in case you are, or if you are interested for taking your Python level to the next step, let's say, feel free to take a read, and if it sparks your interest, you can come later for questions to me or just apply. Finally, it's great seeing you again here, and I hope you enjoy this meetup as much as I will. Thank you and enjoy.
And here comes our first speaker, Ani, or as they call him, the big daddy of Stylight. Is that so? Yeah, exactly.
That is what they call me, yeah.
Very good, very good. So big applause for Ani.
So, I mean, there's already a couple of buzzwords up here, which is probably not how we want to start things. But my name is Ani. I'm a computational linguist. Here at Stylight, I'm a data engineer, so working on a team called Data Intelligence. So we have a bunch of people that come up that basically work on our team to take a large amount of information and basically boil it down to something that other people on our team can understand. If you work any job in tech, this is also your job. So what we're going to talk about today is something that I think is extremely underutilized in our field, but can give you some really good results and really follows the principle of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So making natural language a priority. Regardless of where you work, natural language is probably, at some level, in some extracted form, a large part of what you do on a daily basis. 80% of data on the internet, I don't know how many petabytes that we're at right now, but 80% of it is natural language. So this could be things like chats, emails, the ways that human beings have communicated to one another, despite the fact that we have this amazing technology, despite the fact that computers are built on numerical systems, is still mostly for encoding and sending text information. What I'm going to be talking about today is breaking down that text information in a super generic way. So it would likely apply to anything you work on Pythonically with natural language, but also in a way that's super efficient, super easy, and doesn't involve any of the hoops that maybe someone who is a data scientist might have to jump through. So when we start off, why is language data or natural language important? So one of the reasons it's important is because, of course, we are in Germany, the land of DSVGO, GDPR. It's very important that when we take information from our clients that they don't feel that they're exposing information that might compromise them at some point. Something that's interesting is that a lot of this data that they send, for example, natural language data, is not actually considered PII when it's an actual classification of the language itself. And this will become important as we go on a little further, because we'll find out that, you know, something as simple as locale can actually tell us quite a lot about the customer and also protect their privacy behind the screen. So without further ado, we're going to look at two maps right now. One of them is El Mapa Más Cool del Mundo Hispanohablante, and the other one is a map of the different dialects of Arabic. We can use kind of these two different ideas to start to understand just how diverse different language sets are and how we can leverage more information out of them. From a word level, I mean, this makes sense, and it's actually one of the oldest techniques in machine learning, natural language processing. We know that certain groups of people use different types of vocabulary. And in fact, studies in the linguistic field have found that most people use the exact same words every single day. It's usually limited to around 800. It follows Zipf's law. If you guys have ever heard of the 80-20 rule, that 20% of the things that we know are used 80% of the time. It's a recurring pattern in nature, for example. And we can use some of those characteristics to get a lot more information and a lot more utility than you might first think out of it. So the first thing I'm going to say is that this meeting is really looking at data from kind of the smallest level. It's not just for data scientists, which, I mean, it's just statistics. So I'm going to have a formula here, and it might look super confusing, but I'll be sure to walk you through every step of the way. The traditional ways in which we break down natural language processing with the most common machine learning toolkits. By the way, who here has worked with natural language processing at their job using Python? So any text data. Anyone use strings before? You guys heard of strings? Yeah? Most people? Okay, good. The question is, how do we use this information to actually gain more information about our consumers, the people doing our searches? You guys might be, I mean, by a show of hands, who here is familiar with TensorFlow? Probably most of you. Yeah? Who here has used it? Or is it the same people? Yep, makes sense. sklearn is also one that you folks might have used before by a show of hands. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So you know that in working with text models, there's a lot of noise that you have to deal with on a regular basis, and that working with text models in machine learning usually happens at, I guess, what level would you tell me that it works at? At a sentence level, a paragraph level? Does anyone who's worked in it want to give me an example? Most people work at data at a word level. I'm going to answer that. Most people work with text data at a word level. So kind of the most atomic model, whether you're using a bag of words approach, which is just saying, let me take this amount of data and let me perform a classification on it. Just give me the words in any order. Some other people might use it, the ordered information, and try to kind of elicit more important things like negation. So if you, for example, have ever looked on Google reviews, up until 2015, if you went up to a restaurant and you said, this food was not good, it would show up as a positive review if it had a certain number of stars, and that's because they were using bag of words up until 2015. But what I want to talk about today is actually cutting down language to a smaller level and talking about how using a trick like this can actually save us a lot of development time and can tell us more information about our users than we might have ever thought that it could have. So, question for you folks, what language is this, and what does it mean? Does anyone know what it means, first of all? Show of hands. You do. Thank you, that's the correct answer. But what language is it? If you had to put this into a language set, what would it be? It's Mock Latin, exactly, or Pig Latin, Mock Latin. But how did you know that? It's as he just said, it's complete nonsense. So there must have been a way that we looked at this piece of text and we knew intuitively that it was that it was under Latin. So what kind of things can we use in this text to kind of help us reach to this conclusion? Anyone have any ideas? Yeah? Yeah. And that's actually what most machine learning tools does. It breaks it down to the individual word. But let's say I don't have a dictionary of Latin, or I'm working on a program that doesn't have the latency to actually store an entire dictionary of Latin and its meanings. How did you know that this was Latin? Right. Let's say you didn't know any of these words. Let's say you just saw the word magna aliqua. How did you know it was Latin? The rules that govern what language is and what isn't is called phonotactics. And Latin is like any other language, basically conforms to them. Certain groups of characters which might be legal in other languages are actually not legal in Latin, and vice versa. We know that Latin has, for example, intuitively, a lot of words that end in et, it, but for example, it doesn't end in anything like ing, ung. These are things, for example, that we would associate with German. Oh, sorry. So, oh yeah, share screen, sure. Give me a second. Sorry, folks. It's classic. Just trying to save energy during the crisis. You guys know how it is. Yeah? So we have an intuitive idea that this is Latin, and we might think it's because it's from the words we know, but even if we didn't know a single word of this, even if I pulled some extremely strange phrase out of a 14th century Bible or something, we know this is Latin intuitively because of the clusters of words and where they're allowed to occur in the sentence. Latin, for example, the way it marks its nominative case is but you don't need to know that to look at words that end in and have an idea, have a feeling for it. So my question is, how can we actually leverage this? So today we'll be using something called naive Bayes. It's a super simple concept. Does everyone here know what that is? Show of hands. Okay, awesome. All right, I feel good. I'll get back to the, essentially, it's the idea that you can, if you chain probabilities across any given amount of data, you can come to a conclusion on where that kind of data is classified, given the minimum extracts of that data, which is a very clunky way of saying, look at this 10-line Python code and let me know if it makes sense to you. If we want to calculate something like a letter n-gram, all we are doing is taking a text, breaking it down by some number n, which is usually 2 or 3. You might be familiar with n-grams if you've worked with machine learning, but they're almost always done at the word level. If it's a 3 gram, for example, and we go back here, the 3 gram would be the first items in the set of our 3 gram would be LOR, ORE, LOR, ORE, REM, and then M, and then as we go forward, we would have to include a space. So why can we actually use this, and what do we actually use it for? By understanding the frequencies, when certain syllables are basically phonemes, which are a group of characters, when we calculate how often they can occur and where, we can kind of do some really powerful things. For example, what if I told you that I could identify languages that had a 95% overlap using only 300 bytes of data? I'm going to compare 2 languages that are almost identical, Bosnian and Serbian. The overlap is 95%. On the left, we have, actually, I'm not even sure looking at this. There's any experts here? Anyone want to tell me which one is Serbian and which one is Bosnian? Left is Serbian, thank you. But, you know, maybe if you're a user, you might say, well, that's cheating. If we start taking the probabilities of these words, then maybe there are some characters that exist in one that don't exist in the other. So I say, okay, fair enough, I don't want to cheat. Let's do this again, literally the same thing, but I've removed any characters that would immediately tell us which one is Bosnian, which one is Serbian. This is nonsense, but hang with me for a second. I used 10,000 articles of data from, it's a Kaggle Wikipedia dump from 2011. And I said, for every article in Serbian, give me the exact same article in Bosnian. I trained it on 10,000 articles of data, and then I trained our model that cuts it down on a word level just on the Universal Declaration of Human Values, which you see on the left here, and on the right over here in Bosnian and Serbian. My results were only 1% or 1 point, I'm not going to do the math, not much worse, essentially, than a very, a trained model that was tuned to 10,000 articles of individual full text data, breaking it down at the word level. So essentially, we were able to use a very tiny amount of text side by side, use the probabilities of those characters, and get a result that I would argue is comparable to spinning cycles and cycles of AWS machine learning cores. Google API was so much worse too. It has API limits, I get it. If you use their language detection software, it can only detect Bosnian from Serbian 84.2% of the time. this here, just kind of to drive home the point, this is probably the n-gram that you're used to. We're breaking it down in a word level. This is a, this is a. We just did that on the character level. But we can actually use this for a bunch of other applications. First of which being monolingual translation. So what is monolingual translation? Well, it turns out that even people who speak the same language don't really use the same statistics or draw from the same sources when they read or talk naturally. For example, there is a positive correlation with how many French words you use and what level of college you've attained. There's a positive correlation too between which fields you're actually working in and how many Greek or Latin or French suffixes you use. So we can actually gain a lot of information between speakers of the same language by seeing what sources they actually draw from at a character level by viewing these types of distributions. An example of this is going to be a classic spam or ham, but I'm going to, what basically my classifier is working on is how can we tell if this piece of information is a medical document or not a medical document. So is it someone listing their symptoms or is it someone talking about how their day went? If both of these are in English, I can detect 92.2% of the time, which is better than an SVM in scikit-learn, if that person is talking about a medical condition or not, because 95% of medical terms originate in Latin or Latinized Greek. So these are just examples of, but really like, what I really want to press home is the idea that like hidden inside words themselves is a vast amount of information you can use to understand your user. It's information that you can use to kind of classify information, and it's most importantly, you can even split users who typically fall under the exact same, I guess you would call character groups or intended target audience. For example, usually locale doesn't go any lower than English. So, well, what language is this? EN_US. What I'm arguing is that you can use things like character distribution to not only understand where they're from, but what specific part of the country they're from, their age, their level of education, and these are all things that you can use to understand your target audience better. Oop. And yeah, that's fine. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's my presentation, so. Yeah, no, it's totally good. I think it's, I had one more, but I think it's dying. Yeah, it's all good. Does anyone have any questions? No?
Come on.
Don't be shy.
We need some questions here.
Yes.
The bravest man.
Sorry, this is a big question, but if you see lots of characters in China or Japan, what would be your approach?
Right. So, that's actually a really good question.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, sure. So what he's asking basically is simplified traditional Chinese and Japanese share a character set. So what his question would be, well, how would we know which character set it's from? If you look before what I was when I was putting up the equation of naive Bayes, what we would basically do is we chain probabilities across an entire text. So you're absolutely right in that if we just had an individual character that exists in both, we would have absolutely no idea which one belongs to Chinese and which one belongs to Japanese. But for example, if a certain word occurs more in one, or let's say they have an equal probability in either language, as we chain the probabilities of each of these characters, once for Chinese and once for Japanese, as we go across the text, we will eventually encounter characters in a row that can only exist in one of the sets and can't exist in the other set, drastically reducing the probability that that set would be Chinese. Does that make sense? More or less?
Yes, I was more asking along the lines you don't really know where to split compared to the European language you're used to.
That's actually a really good question, and it's a separate question. That answer is actually there's actually a backoff like function that people use. So you go like in Chinese, for example, you typically don't have words that are more than 2 characters. So you would do backoffs and then do a match to see, and that's how you would cut it off. Does that make sense? Sorry, I should have explained that better. Does anyone else have any questions or no? Okay. Well, I'm not sure who our next speaker is. I don't know the order.
So there are no more questions. Then we need to make a big applause for Ali.
Thank you.
Yes. We know you want the break and the beer, but we have one more very, very important activity.
We have to concentrate with this one. Lisa, do you want to announce it?
Yes, I can announce. So today we have someone here who is having birthday. And we would like to sing happy birthday for her.
It's one of PyLadies organizers, Lisa and
Oh,
Ola! Stand up, Ola! Come here. Come here.
We will sing in English, so everyone can
Ola,
participate.
and we have to try hard because Ola was not sure if she should go here on her birthday. And I said, come on, have you ever heard 100 people or so singing you happy birthday? I think it was a good argument, so let's just do it, okay? Ola, name is Ola. 3, 2, 1, go! Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ola. Happy birthday to you.
Bravissimo!
Now you can have 10 minutes break. Thank you very much. Let's catch up in 10 minutes.
You can come. Yeah. You are the next, right? I don't know. Anton. Yeah, you are the next. You won't be the last.
Very nice collection of stickers.
Yeah, and that they are very millimetric.
Yes, yes.
Now I just have space for some, you know. The problem is I don't want to cover others, so I'm
Yeah, actually, I want to take a photo because she has the most beautiful. You should stand here with her picture like
It works. Everything works.
I'll say the artist.
Actually, the reason why I don't want to buy the new laptop because I have so many beautiful stickers. I cannot say goodbye to us.
Do you want something to drink? Olga?
Maybe I brought some sect. Maybe we can drink. I don't know if it's good.
A knife to us too.
Maybe I was running to
You brought a sect? Where is it?
in my bag.
Here.
Yes.
You can bring it. Yeah, I will ask them if they have some glasses, maybe some.
But I'm afraid to open it.
Why? Because of the gas?
Yes.
No, it's fine. But you made it. you can go when you need to go.
Yes,
It's okay.
I have some appointment at 8:30. 8:30, yes.
Then enjoy. Let's take something for you to drink. I will ask if they have this. This champagne? Is it champagne? A secta. Oh, so beautiful.
It's also cute.
It's rose dry. Only for PyLadies.
Exactly.
We should put PyLadies sticker here.
We should put
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I have actually.
We can do photo. It will be good photo.
Yes, that's true. Where is here my sticker? No, it's here. I brought few stickers because I will give one to her. And we don't have so many. Okay, I'll put this one. Where should we put? Maybe here. All for marketing.
For marketing. Okay, we should do photos.
But we need, this can open. We just need the kitchen's there. We'll take some. Hello, hello. Did you mute us? I guess so, right?
You're sure? We just unplug. We just unplug this. Cheers.
See, I brought this.
Відео вже закрутий. Женя хорош. Зараз прийде до нас тусовщик. Я тобі потрібен, як ти романтичний. Привіт. Дуже допомагає знайти тобі проект.
Дуже взаємно.
Дуже допомагає нам знайти проект. Закладна ідея. Круто. І той, що мені знайшов проект, це ставить. Я не дискриміную, але не так.
Чим старший мужик, тим як його надійніше.
Мало працюю, тому що в мене я працюю це називається аналітична компанія.
Я не буду розписати.
So, Nele,
Але якщо
our Odessa game.
я маю на увазі. Але це не може все, що
Так, до війни я почав приїхав в 18 місяців. Потім ще Але працюю через Україну, то мені зараз важливо, тому що заповнюється це, я сам відбуваюся дуже комфортно. І тобто, якщо ще через податки, то мені не зовсім але мені подобається проєкт, і якби не ситуація, краще
Because it's not so small, but yeah, but still, I managed to there's a lot of connections to people who are better than me. I know people who have the company and people and we start to work harder to sort of organize a video every 5 days. When it comes to the
Так, працюю за це.
as soon as software convince between the I will be a huge I will do which I did last time anyway. It's taking news and exchanging articles. You don't support the art. You can support news.
Зараз фактично буває таке тижні, коли я працюю практично 50 годин. Ну так, 40, ці 40 там ще частково собі.
Коротше, це до того, як приїхав, Женька сидив, плакав. Тепер він потрібно офіційне працевлаштування. Я його працевлаштовую, за це мені потрібен проєкт. Вже наповнено. Класні бутерброди.
Я жартую. Можеш в Антона запитати.
Але тут є наша тайка. Яка Raisa, how is it? Good? Great. Meets Lisa, Raisa. You speak Spanish? Nice. Y la Isa también habla español. Podemos hablar.
Pero ella es nativa, ¿no?
¿Puedes cantar en español? ¿Puedes cantar? En español, algo de... Speaker número 4. Okay. Nuestro speaker.
¿Vas a cantar?
Next meetup.
Tengo que...
Okay.
Okay, I have the teacher that song. Okay, I have
What's
a
what it was?
song for you.
Okay, what song?
It's yes. Really? Yes.
We need to kick people back to the seats.
So I'm not like checking. I'm looking for
I can
I mean, very nice. people like it because it's not so much of the language, it's more architectural topic. No, I was saying like, yeah, let's put this speaker here and like.
Her microphone was not muted, and she was talking like, I wish we could go to sound and use them together. It's you again. Okay, so we need to take people back. Let's do it.
Oh, and you write down, right?
We need this, and we need It's time to take your seats. Next talk is getting started soon. We will have more breaks, we will have more beer, more everything. Please take your seats. Next speaker can make it from Berlin to here. I'm sure you can make it from seat corner to your seat as well.
And that's it? Okay, let's see.
Did you plug it in? Yes, but did you plug in the mic?
Yes, we are plugged
Okay.
in.
When it starts, check if there is voice. Okay. You put on the slides and then you go out and check. Okay. So it seems like I will have the honor of introducing you.
Oh my God.
Oh.
But
all
are
right.
the slides working? No.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Presentation. We need a Stylight person here. Anyone from Stylight knowing how to turn on the slides, please? This is important. We are waiting for Stylight person as for Santa on Christmas. Stylight Santa. Ah, here is Stylight Santa. Very good. Woo! Stylight Santa, could you please help us turning it on? It's okay. Take your time. I will meanwhile.
Oh, wait. Is there one? But which one is it actually?
Are we unmuted?
Which cable is it?
Yes, we are
This
unmuted.
one, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Okay. Works? Good. Okay. And when we start, you add it.
sorry, I thought it was solved
Okay.
over this like.
Ah. Again?
Yes. But how can I need to. No, it's okay. I just need to mirror.
Mhm.
Because if I don't mirror, I
Oh, you're
cannot.
so fast. Working under stress is difficult. But you can. There you go. Haha.
Okay.
Okay. Next speaker is Nele. I met Nele, as well as Lisa met Nele 1 year ago at the conference PyCon Odessa in Ukraine. Her presentation was wonderful. I stole pretty much all of it to my slides, so I appreciate her work a lot. But now we have this honor to see it. We agreed that we will do this presentation now, and next time we will probably meet again in Ukraine, Odessa, after Ukraine wins, obviously. Good. So please welcome Nele from Camunda from Berlin.
Cool. Thank you for the warm welcoming. My topic today is workflow engines, the glitter glue for microservice orchestration, and I'm talking about Python microservices. Camunda also is doing workflow engine, and this topic is a little bit more an architectural topic than based on the language, but I still think there is something you can take out of or can take with you. Anton said it already. My name is Nele Uhlemann. I work as a developer advocate. Before, I used to work as a consultant at Camunda, and I was doing a lot of the implementation and support for customers using workflow engines. And you see me here with my second passion. That's food, actually. I can get very excited with food, especially Indian food. And you will learn in that presentation why this is also an important part. So maybe just as an introduction question, who of you is...
The mic is not working.
This one or the other one?
No.
Yeah.
All good now. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, that sounds better.
Thank you.
Different. Okay, cool. No, now it's...
You muted again, probably. So
But how is...
There is a new button on the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds so good. You can sing a song.
No, I don't want people to leave, so I'm not singing. Yeah. So important that no one misses the information. This is me with my second passion, that's food, especially Indian food gets me really excited, and you will learn in this presentation why this is important. Maybe before we start, who of you is developing microservices? Okay, see some. That's good. So yeah, let's start. So the idea of like having a system and multiple services, so decomposing a system into services is not new. But what is new in microservices is that we actually have a service that also belongs, or that the team has is responsible for, and also the service has their own database. That is quite new when it comes to microservices, and also that those microservices are independent deployable. I think that's the most crucial factor here. And it would be very nice if we could have those services, but at one point they need to interact with each other because we have a functionality of one system. So for example, if we have online banking, or if we are a bank, we might have services that in the end allow a customer to open applications. So those services, they need to interact. So you need to find the right glue for those services. And if you look at microservices, there are nowadays two ways of doing it. And one way is choreography, and the other one is orchestration. And if we look into choreography, that is basically the approach to work with message brokers. So that is the idea that a microservice can send a message, and other microservices can subscribe to the topic of the message from the message broker as soon as the message is available and the service picks up the message, it will then perform the business logic. The other way of doing, or of like gluing a microservice system together, is orchestration. And the idea of orchestration here is that you have a command-driven approach. So here you have a component like a workflow engine or an orchestrator that commands to the microservice that they need to do something. Also, those microservices can subscribe to the workflow engine or to the orchestrator, but then the the orchestration component really takes care about the state. Maybe important here for me to say, I don't think one or the other is better. I think it always depends what the overall functionality of your system is and what you want to achieve. I think there are good reasons to use choreography, there are good reasons to use orchestration, and what I see nowadays as well is that people do it both together. So sometimes they do use message brokers with workflow engines side by side. The overall idea here is, not just for orchestration, also for choreography, that a component like the workflow engine or message broker should integrate into your overall microservice architecture quite loosely. So it should not be like a heavy component connecting everything, but it should work like another microservice in your architecture. Let's look a little bit at a workflow engine, because let's look at orchestration. And I think that's what you find nowadays is you see the term orchestrator or workflow engine, both exist. And the idea basically here is you have the services, and the workflow engine now defines the running order of those services. So it's service A, service B, service C. And by having this, you really keep the state in your system, so you know what has happened already, and you also know what still needs to be done in, for example, a workflow that combines multiple services. And interestingly enough is, when I sometimes talk about workflow engines, people say, hey, workflow engines are quite old, that's not new, because they have been famous around 2000 with service-oriented architectures, and that is right. So they are workflow engines that are there for quite some time. What's important is to understand that those workflow engines probably are not the best ones to use for microservice orchestration. It's like you cannot use the camera to take a digital picture. But if you look into the open source world, you see some workflow engine and orchestrators. For example, from Netflix, you find Conductor as an open source project. There is Cadence from Uber. And those like workflow engines and orchestrators are really there for orchestrating your microservices. I would like to talk a little bit about the glitter for me in microservice orchestration, because there are some engines and workflow engines around, and you have to define the workflow in the orchestrator. So you have to define the order the services are running. And for example, Netflix Conductor is doing it in a text-based approach. They use a YAML file to define the services in which they should run. And I think if we look back into the past, for the older workflow engines, they also struggle to find a common language. How should we define workflows? So how should we orchestrate a business flow? And back then, there was a language that was invented, and it's called BPMN. It's Business Process Model Annotation, and it's an open standard maintained by the OMG. And for me, that really adds a glitter component, because it's not just a text-based approach, it is a visual approach, but beside that, in the back, it has an XML structure. And this XML structure can be executed directly. And just to give you an indicator of some glitter component into this whole orchestration point is, we see now here again a workflow, that's BPMN. And we see this is like, finally we start with some food. So we want Indian food, we decide on a restaurant, we order food, we eat food, and then we are satisfied, hopefully. Probably, this is quite simple. We don't need an orchestrator for this. But I just like to give you some of the features that BPMN has. By simply adding this construct here, that's an event subprocess, what we can do here is add we can handle globally time. So by doing this, actually, we can say if the process above takes longer than 30 minutes, we want to interrupt the whole process and we do something instead. And if we would now consider that we want to implement something like this just in code, it gets quite complicated. If we want to implement like time on different scopes in our code, it can be quite tricky. And BPMN provides some of those features out of the box, and that makes it really easy or nice when it comes to handling state. Let's look at the process that inspired me basically for today. Still Indian restaurant, food, and let's walk through this and also see how that runs. So we have 4 microservices here in this overall process that says we want Indian food, and it helps us basically to get Indian food. We decide on a restaurant, and then we check the waiting line. Fun fact, I've been to London like 2 years ago, and I figured out there's a really good Indian restaurant, but you need to queue for Indian food. And I decided if the waiting line is not longer than 2.5 hours, I will do that. I will go for the queue. And then I end here, and then I wait until I get a message that I have a table, or if 3 hours are passing, probably the information was wrong, and I look back to decide on a restaurant. And yeah, if there is no waiting line, I'm lucky, I can order food and I can eat food, and I'm satisfied in the end. Infrastructure-wise, things like that nowadays get a little bit more complex as well, because we might have a workflow engine that runs in the cloud, but we also might have our own services on our own servers, and maybe we have a different service that is not ours, that is an external one. So also considering this, when you build the architecture is quite handy, because it helps you to have an overview what's happening in your systems basically, or across different architectures or different services. But let's look at the demo basically. So I prepared a small demo here where we see this process that I had on the slides. And what I can do here basically is, by the way, that's Camunda, that's the Camunda engine. I use it here because I work with Camunda, but I mean, it is like the idea of microservice orchestration would also work with other workflow engines, and also I'm using the workflow engine here in our cloud, but obviously you could also run it locally on your machine. So the idea here is that I have a service worker, the microservice, and what I need to give it here is a type, and by this information, my Python code later workflow engine has this topic available, it can connect and performs the business logic. So let's deploy the diagram. And let's start a process instance. just say that the customer is me. I want some food. And then I can go to a front end basically that allows me to give me some insight now in the real runtime of the process. It's loading. Perfect. And we are here now, so we know what is the state of our system. We wait now here for this microservice to pick up the work. Let's look into the code, how it looks in code. So what I can do in terms of like defining those workers is I can use client libraries, and I used here the PyZB client library for the ZB engine that basically allows me to connect to our SAS engine. And yeah, I have here the end file with the credentials, but also here, basically I create then the client. And what I can do here, when I create the worker, I can include different routers in the worker, and in the router actually I have the business logic defined. So if I have here the restaurant router, if I go to the task.py file, I see here that I basically have a list with different restaurants, and then I make a random choice. And by doing so, I also give that variable back to the overall process context, and then it can continue. So, didn't want to do that. But let's run this. And yeah, now we should have moved. Oh, we haven't. Interesting. Ah, yeah, now we are here. And again, the same thing is I can use basically also the client now to send a message. And the message needs to correlate somehow. That's why I put the customer name. So I can say here that's the name of the message, and the correlation key, it's here, that's my name. That's how it knows it needs to pick up the message. And yeah, and then you see the other microservices are picking up what they should do, and then I could go back, and now the instance should be finished of the one process. And now we see here, okay, this is how the process ran through. This is how the microservices that was, or basically how they were executed. The really nice thing now is that you not just have something that keeps state, but you also can make you can make changes quite quickly to your process. So, for example, what if you want to say, this is fine, this model, but we know almost like a year ago, I think, we needed to provide some documents when we wanted to go to a restaurant. So actually we need to change the logic here, and we need to include another microservice. So we need to say, okay, maybe if we want to go to a restaurant, we have something that says check Corona documents. And let's make that correct, because I already have a router here. Perfect. And what I can do now is I deploy this diagram, and I start an instance, and beside my name, and obviously you can imagine this is just the start. What you would do normally, you would not deploy it like this. You would first test it. You would treat the model like you would treat your code. Also, you would probably have a different way of starting it, maybe with a front end or anything that's connected. I'm just doing it here for the demo. Documents, and let's say I don't have Corona documents. Let's see what's happening then. Take some time. Can send the message maybe in between already. Aha. We have a problem here. That's interesting. Ah, yeah, okay. I named the variable wrong. So the nice thing here is, the nice thing here, like errors are normally not nice, but you have a central view now if something is going wrong. So I just add here the variable in the admin tool to say, okay, I want to continue basically. That was not planned. That happens if you do it manually. Of course, if you have something defined in your front end, that would not happen. The variable would be known, and I retry basically. And why do I have a typo on how this always happens? Corona docu. Oh.
This is to prove it's live.
yeah, it's live. Yeah. I copy pasted. Let's be on the safe side. I should not try to type things myself. That normally doesn't work. I can still do a retry. But actually, I wanted to get an error, and I think maybe now we finally have the one that I want to show, because I have no Corona documents, and what I did here actually in code, I just throw an exception. But what is nice here now is that I see that this exception was happening in this service basically, and I know already by having an administrator tool which microservice is failing. And now as an admin, I could go in and say, okay, I can debug this, or well, maybe also at some point I want to say, this is actually an error that can occur multiple times. So a nice thing about BPMN is that those errors can be business errors. It's a really nice feature that it offers. So I could like just introduce here a BPMN error onto this symbol and call it no documents. And then I send the customer away or do something else. It doesn't really matter what I want to do. So just send the person away. And then I use this one here from the client library basically to have this or to throw the error on the job. And that should do the trick, and then I can deploy the diagram. And the idea basically here is that this now becomes a business error that can be handled by the process logic. So I don't need this to be an exception. I don't need an admin to look into this. If I look now into the operation tool, what I also have here in Operate, what is quite nice, if I go to the dashboard, is that a process or that a workflow engine takes care of your versions. So that means everything that has started on an old version stays on an old version from a process instance, but also like if I would start now a new one, we would go with the new version of it. Cool. I hope that outlined in a quick overview why BPMN is kind of a cool language, because you have it visual and executable at the same time. Also brings me to the end. To say what I hope that you saw that orchestration is a nice glue to define like the order of your services, that you have a tool to manage the state in those services, that BPMN actually is kind of glitter, and it helps you and in the overall state of your process to see what's going on. And I think that's especially interesting if we are not talking about a workflow that has just 4 services, but if you have way more complex business logic, it can be quite handy to have an overview in your system. Thank you.
Where's my mic? Here is my mic. We are ready to have some questions. And was it just touching your hair, or was it a question? I guess it was touching the hair. Okay. And the gentleman in the middle, the bravest man of tonight.
or you mentioned also it's a third-party service for payments or something like that. How would you handle that, or even mock it?
Yeah, you would like, and if you would test it, you mock it obviously first. But if you want to have it running, you would also connect it, or you would also use the client library. But then you would have like I put everything into one worker, but you could imagine you would put then the different routers, the business logic, into different workers, and they could run completely separate like clouds or on separate server.
More questions? Yes. I will leave the mic for you.
If like there's something like wrong with the configuration or something, or like a particular part of the service doesn't seem to be running properly, is there a way to sort of just redeploy that one service and just say, hey, everything else looks fine, you don't need to put up the whole cluster?
Yes, that's possible. Yeah. So I just put everything into one, like for the demo, everything was into one worker. Obviously, you could think that you have multiple workers, and then you would also have just like, yeah, well, probably for the demo, it's easy. In microservice setup, you would not have put every business logic into the one worker. Yeah.
Okay, now we have 2 questions. Is there question number 3? No. Oh, yes, from Eugene. Okay.
I want to ask about downscaling and upscaling services. It's automatically.
You mean for the, okay, so this is now Camunda 8, like you mean the engine itself, or you mean the workers themselves?
I mean, in the engine of this.
The workflow engine?
Yes.
So the workflow engine, if you use it in the VAS way, that's what I did. Camunda takes care of upscaling and downscaling. If you want to use it locally, you would deploy it on Kubernetes. So you would use it with Kubernetes together, and then Kubernetes basically takes care for you about up and downscaling.
Okay, so I can use this stuff for my own infrastructure.
Yeah.
Kubernetes or Linguistic cloud.
So the ZB workflow engine, we provide Helm charts so that you can like deploy them on Kubernetes, and that you can use it also locally. Then you don't have to use the SaaS offering that Camunda has, but you can also use it on your own server and do it on your own installation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Was very, very good question. You should have seen his face. It was so serious. I was thinking he's going to propose, maybe. Who knows? If you ever want to propose, please drop me a line. We'll make you a good announcement. We do it live on PyMunich meetup. But maybe next time. Okay, more questions? More proposals? No. All right. Then we need to make a big applause for Nele. Okay, wait. Would you extend this applause? We need to make a selfie with the audience. Could you please do another applause? We need it really desperately. And thank you very much. Now let's have another break, another 10 minutes, and then we have the finest talk ever. So 10 minutes, yes.
It's like too many miles.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Little things dropping apart, but all good.
Okay, can you hear us?
Hello, Nastya. Wave your hand if you can hear me.
Perfect.
Aha. So I cannot hear you, but I can see you. Aha. Hey, we have PyBerlin online. Wave your hands. Cheers from Munich. Woohoo. We have 90 people here, by the way. I just counted you. So special greetings to PyBerlin, straight from Munich. Woohoo! It finally worked.
You can also shout something. No?
Very nice. We still have some time for break, so I will just leave it on. Let's say it's our virtual bridge from Munich to Berlin. It sounds so romantic, so I'll just keep it running. We still have some time. Feel free to keep it running as well. Up to you on your side.
Anyone wants to say hi? Here? No?
Okay.
It's also live.
Aha, we saw you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I brought
Okay.
Come on, be annoyed.
Oi, pessoal. O nosso próximo apresentador vai começar. Pessoal.
They understand.
Obrigada.
Just
Oi, pessoal.
so apparently beautiful Portuguese voice is more convincing than mine in English. Please take your seats.
Please take your seats. Por favor, tome suas posições.
This is fun, I love it. Okay, will you introduce Andrey? Yes, he's a cool guy, nice to have. Smart, charming. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We will start now. Here by my side is Andrey, and today is the workflow day, but now we're going to go to machine learning. So he will talk about reproducible machine learning workflows with Python and dstack. So big applause for our next speaker.
Bravo! And after we'll make a round.
Oh, and after we have 2 tickets for DevOps conference that is happening in Munich. So I hope you stay here for the Python game.
It's very cool ticket, very cool. It's expensive as
It's
fuck.
really expensive. Try to read it.
All right, let's welcome Andrey.
All right, thanks. Does it work?
That's right. I have to say,
The button?
in your back,
You'll have to touch him.
Okay.
Is it now?
Yeah, better.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot for warm welcoming. I hope you're enjoying the party as much as I do. So yeah, gonna keep it casual and not very long. It's kind of funny to first talk was about data science and then about workflows. So it's something in the middle. It's about like data science and workflows. Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm Andrey. I'm the creator of dstack. This is the open source project, which I've been working for a year now. Before dstack, I've been working for, quite a lot of JetBrains with the PyCharm team and with other teams. So basically, that's since then passionate about the developer tools and developer productivity. Just curious, anyone using PyCharm here? Nice. That's cool. And that's one of the reasons why I also started working on dstack, so we'll cover that. Having said that, here's the agenda. So we'll talk about, I'll give you an intro into ML workflows. And as I know now, some of you already like involved in data science, but it is going to be pretty much introductory, so don't worry if you're not into that. Then we'll talk about some typical pitfalls which you might have when you are involved in this topic. And then, of course, I'll talk about dstack, and then we'll have questions if time allows. Nice. So before we get deeper, probably we're starting with what are the ML workflows and what are the workflows anyway. Some of you might have some idea of what that is, and just to fix the terminology. So basically, to me, a workflow is just anything that you do in order to achieve certain goal. Or sometimes you can refer to a workflow as to a group of things. Like, for example, when you are working on your Python code, debugging your Python application can be called a workflow. So, and you can switch between different workflows, and you can use different tools for different workflows. For example, with a traditional software development, you have workflows such as writing your code, running your code, testing it, deploying it, running tests, and so on and so forth. So in machine learning, there are also certain workflows, and there's some similarity between machine learning and software development. And so what are these workflows? So it typically starts with exploring the data. you have to get some idea of the data, and sometimes it's quite interactive because you have to stay in that short feedback loop to write some code to see how it works. Then, of course, when it comes to like large data, you have to process data before you can, for example, use it for training and for other workflows. Training workflows, training models is also a workflow. It is worth noting that a workflow is typically something that you do regularly. Then you can call it a workflow. For example, when you're working on some project, it's not just, you've trained the model and then your work is done and you can go home. I mean, yeah, for today, but tomorrow you get back and then you have to train it again. That's why it's a workflow. Then, of course, when you, for example, training a model, you might want to build some kind of an app to interact with your model or with your data. That's also a workflow. And finally, of course, the deployment of the models. It's interesting that just like in software development, for example, these ML workflows can be carried out in different ways. So, for example, one situation is when you let's say, performing them from the IDE or from your developer environment. For example, you are working with an IDE or Jupyter Notebook, and then you might want to run an app or explore the data or train a model. Sometimes, especially when it gets to the productizing your model, you may want to run some of these workflows, for example, from your CI/CD pipeline as a part of your development release cycle. For example, sometimes you may want to run your workflow on a commit or on creating a certain tag and so on and so forth. And another way for running ML workflows is programmatically. Sometimes you have a workflow, but you need to run it on certain events. Sometimes manually, just run this workflow with certain parameters. For example, I don't know, some batch processing, or sometimes you might want to automate and run this workflow programmatically. Just imagine, for example, you are building an app which uses machine learning to make certain, let's say, generation. And then you can't use one model for every user. You sometimes want to, for example, the model based on certain user preferences or some user data. And for example, you have an event, user registered in your application, uploaded some data, and you can invoke that workflow that trains the model. So as you see, ML workflows, they are not invoked only from the IDE or from CI/CD pipeline, but also programmatically. And again, we're talking about ML workflows holistically. And the second step probably would be to compare how ML workflows are different from traditional software development. So what makes ML workflows special? Why we don't refer to ML workflows just as workflows? We say it's ML workflow. Number one obvious is that ML workflows may depend and produce data and models. So like, for example, in traditional development, your program may depend on certain libraries, and it's when you compile or build your application, in the end, it's a set of code or libraries, and then you may want to deploy it. When it comes to ML workflows, it's not just code and libraries, it's also data and models. And we'll also talk why that is important. Then another surprising thing is that ML workflows are really hardware heavy, meaning that you really need a sophisticated way of orchestrating your hardware. For example, if you have one workflow, it might consist of certain steps, and for one step you might need certain hardware, and for another step you might need something else, and you need some engine that would automate that workflows and keep them running. So for example, when we talk about the software development, we typically, for example, for building software, we have CI/CD pipelines, right? Things like GitHub and GitLab that can provision hardware to build your program. Or let's say for deployment, we have cloud, and also we have Kubernetes, for example, as we spoke at the last talk. Kubernetes can help you auto-scale your programs. But when it comes to ML work, they do not really fit. That's why you have to invent something else. That creates a problem. And of course, ML workflows are in a way different, that you have to trigger sometimes them programmatically. But I think that's also, it's not that much different. In traditional development, you might also want to trigger it programmatically. So typical pitfalls, like, okay, so why it is such a thing, why it is a problem, why people talk about that, why they reinvent the wheel, and every company that does ML at scale, they probably built already an internal platform that try to solve that problem. So number one is that if you are doing data science, you probably know that you spend a lot of time at the experimentation stage. So you spend a lot of time with your Jupyter notebook, for example. You do a lot of experimentation. You go back and forth, and when it comes to deploying your thing, you realize that, well, it's not just possible to deploy a notebook, and then you really need to reproduce the steps which you've gone through in order to package that, and then you scratch your head, and then you ask for help, and then some other person tells you, okay, so give me something so I can deploy it, give me some package. And then you realize that there is no standard for that package, you don't really know how to ship it. So in the end, we ending up having two silos, for example, ML folks, and then DevOps folks or MLOps folks, and probably doing a lot of own stuff, and that's a friction. So a part of that is when in software development, we have a lot of standards: Git, CI/CD, Docker, infrastructure as code, things like Terraform or CloudFormation and stuff. So for example, there are no standards for versioning data and model. And of course, if you don't consider putting something into NS3 bucket, versioning, but a lot of teams actually do that. And also same for the model. And finally, of course, there are no standards for provisioning hardware. So basically, these things are called ML pipelines. Now, some libraries appear to help with that, but there is no good standards, basically just different libraries. So just to recap, it's not that there are no tools for that, it's just that tools all are different, and there's no very common approach to that problems. And that's one of the things that dstack aims to solve. And this presentation is just, it won't explain everything, but it's just to give you a rough idea, a rough feeling how dstack works and how it solves some of these issues. So dstack is a CLI, basically, and that's mostly all of it, which you can install locally. It's like Git or like Docker, something that you can run from your command line. And you can, for example, in the Python world, you install it with pip. And then you have to make this initial configuration. And what you have to do is that this CLI needs your AWS credentials to be present locally. And then you can it also prompts you to select an S3 bucket. So what it's about is you're choosing an S3 bucket where you're going to store the state and store the output artifacts for sharing. For one thing is for storing it, for the history, and for tracking and for versioning. But the other one is also for sharing, and I'll cover that later as well. Now is that your CLI actually installed and configured, what you can do is go and within your project create that workflows.yaml file in a dstack folder where you can describe your workflows. This is a pretty standard way of describing things, so pretty much same way you describe your workflows in CI/CD. You define multiple workflows, and for every workflow, basically you say, okay, what to do, how to save the artifacts, and what other dependencies. One thing to mention here is there are providers. So you may see here the attribute provider, and dstack comes with a number of built-in providers, and so this one is the very standard one, the bash, and you can basically run some bash commands there, and you can rely on the CUDA driver, Conda, and other pretty standard things to be pre-configured, so you don't have to really worry about that. You can also mark certain folders as artifacts. You can put there whatever you want. You can save there some data as a result of your workflow. You can put there some model files as a result of the workflow. You can even mark your Conda environment, which you've just installed and configured in this workflow, as an artifact. And once you finish that workflow, you can reuse that artifact across other workflows. And you can assign tags to these artifacts. For example, here, train workflow depends on the tag mnist data. So this is a tag that was added to some other workflow that created that data. So in a nutshell, it just allows you to manage the dependencies. And then the CLI has this command dstack run, which you can give the name of the workflow, and it will start the workflow. It will automatically provision their infrastructure that is required in their configured cloud of your choice. It will look as it is running locally, but in fact, it will be running in the cloud. For the debugging purposes, of course, you can add this -- local, for example, argument, which would allow you to run the workflow locally, just to test it and to see how it works before you can run it. So typical workflow is that you are working on some workflow, you run it locally, it works, then you run it with one GPU. If it works, then you can increase the number of GPU, increase the number of resources, and then go to full scale. Once your workflow is finished, you can mark that workflow with a tag, and then everybody on the team who is using the same S3 bucket with that tool can access that tag and reuse that tag in their own workflows. So basically what it means is that you can use this tag within teams, and you may have different repositories, different projects, and you can have multiple workflows running by every team member within that project, and then you can also reuse this stuff and work collaboratively. So just to recap, one of the things is that being heavily focused on Python, it's still polyglot, and it allows you to use pretty much other languages. But for Python, it offers the built-in Conda support. For example, the Conda Forge is integrated from the inside, so you don't really have to worry about that. It is pretty easy to use with the cloud because it doesn't really require you to install or administrate anything. You just make sure that the cloud credentials are present on your machine, and then you just use the CLI. You can use it from your local ID, and you don't really have to worry about the pushing changes, local changes to the Git, so they are detected because the CLI actually detects local changes which you have not committed. And of course, you can use the CLI from the CI/CD pipeline. For example, if you have GitHub Actions, you can call this dstack CLI and as a part of your workflow, and it will provision the infrastructure as a part of your release cycle. And finally, it helps you collaborate. So that's, having said that, would love to also to hear questions if there are any, and also appreciate if you could play with the tool. So here's the link on GitHub, and share the feedback that you have.
And thank you very much. Now questions. You can already connect your laptop. Meanwhile, we will do the questions. Questions. Oh, many questions this time.
Thanks.
Please.
Yeah, so thank you for your talk. The question is that you can report to the cloud, and means that you need to have a S3 bucket and an AWS region. So cloud means AWS, not supporting Azure or GCP.
Right. Thanks. I'll probably repeat the question because the mic probably didn't work. The question is it only AWS supported or other clouds supported too? At this very moment, it's only AWS. We are right now working. sorry, we're right now working. No worries. We're working on their Azure, and yeah, GCP is in backlog. Yeah, hopefully we'll get there.
So AWS is completely fine for me because I'm busy, but maybe someone is interested in AWS.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, there was another question. Yes.
Here you go, senor.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for that presentation, especially the pictures. I really like those. So the first question that was basically also my question, and then building on that, do I understand this correctly that the value proposition of what you're doing there is that you can do the same thing as SageMaker pipelines, but directly on EC2? Is that the idea there?
Yeah, thanks. Just to rephrase the question. The question is so if we compare SageMaker and dstack, what would be the difference? So the difference is that dstack is a very lightweight. It has much smaller feature set than SageMaker, and it's a lot more Git focused, and it's more declarative. So SageMaker is a universe of many different things, and dstack only focuses on the declarative polyglot workflows, and it focuses on Git as the glue. And it also provides that slightly different environment for workflows. Basically, for example, it offers CondaForge as a part of it. So I would say if just shortening it up, it's a lot more lightweight, and it's basically built for people that are more familiar with Git, would like to work with an IDE. For example, with dstack, it is totally fine to work with an IDE. With SageMaker, it totally pushes you towards using the web application, their SageMaker Studio, using notebooks and all of that. With dstack, you have more flexibility in terms of, okay, so I'd like to stay within PyCharm, and I don't really want to use some proprietary APIs. Yeah, I want to have more flexibility in terms of the APIs, and also how I track things, how I deploy things, how I monitor things as well. So basically, it's all about their flexibility and their experience, if that makes any sense.
Very good. Any more questions? No more questions. Well done, Andrey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now it's finally time for Raffle. Not exactly a raffle, it's a game. You will need your phones, it's a custom game. Lisa will tell you more if she gets a mic. Because as you all know, who has a mic keeps the balls.
No, this
one is okay. You can leave it.
Take it easy. By the way, Stylight is so nice they're not kicking us out yet. So we can have more beer, more talk. I mean, if you have idea for the next meetup, talk to me, talk to Lisa. Propose a talk. We need speakers. We always do. We will make more cool events if we have more feedback from you. So find any of the organizers. Plenty of us here today. And now Lisa is the boss, I guess. Say something.
Hello, hello. Oi, pessoal.
Okay.
Boa noite.
Good.
So you don't need to download Kahoot, but if you have it in the app, that would be great. I will explain to you. I just need to stream here. Can you see my, are we screen sharing? Am I sharing? If you are online, you can participate. The event will be in Munich in December, December 5 to 7, I believe. Is it okay? They're like talking. Okay, so I will explain to you.
Will you show a link, maybe? Do you want the presentation notes?
Yes.
I can do that.
Maybe it would be.
Magic.
So here is the conference. It's a DevOps conference, which is happening December number 5 to number 8. And yeah, it's called DevOps Munich, and you get 1 day of the tickets to go there. So who is sponsoring us? It's the company that I work. We manage open source databases, such as Kafka, Flink, Postgres, MySQL, and all of those here. We also have support for using Terraform, Kubernetes, and Python Clean, and so on. So you can take a look. Big thanks to them to sponsor those 2 tickets for us. And we also have Python open position. So in case you are interested, you can always talk to me about it, and I can tell you. So let's start the game. Here we're gonna have, you can either scan this QR code, or you can put the pin on. It's number 30781. You can also participate. Yeah. So people are starting to enter. If you are here, it's okay to use any number, any name. But if you are online, I would suggest to use a name that we can identify you somehow. Maybe it's a handle for your GitHub. Maybe it's a handle for your Twitter. Yes, just enter. There are some rules for this game. Everyone can participate and everyone can get to win. But in case you win, we want that this ticket go to a PyLady, so maybe you can give to your favorite person who is a PyLady, or some of your coworkers who is a PyLady. But yeah, that would be our rule. We have some people entering. Yeah, I will give you some time so everyone can log in. If you have some technical difficulties, Anton will go there, has a support team. But yeah.
Wow.
You!
Welcome, Art.
I like this one.
Welcome, friend.
Where is Beyonce? She's not here yet. Capital. We need more. So this game is based in some Python questions, of course, some DevOps questions, and you will see it.
And who are the animals?
Yes, who are the animals? Pandas. So I think someone who likes pandas, library.
Are pandas allowed to enter the conference?
I guess it will be okay. It's not a data science conference, but you can still come to DevOps.com. And it's great because if you're located in Munich, which I believe everyone here is, it will be a great conference for you to go. I will actually be speaking there, so I'll expect you in my talk too. So let's see, I think it's more or less stable. Does anyone still entering? I will start now. I think it was
drums. Let's start it.
There were 2 more people who entered. Where is the 50? The 50. Let's make to the 50. Okay, 51. Woo! Some people want this ticket. So I think we'll start.
3, 2, 1, go!
Let's see if it works. So this is from PyLadies and PyMunich. We will start now. Good luck. A formatter for Python code is black, red, yellow, or blue. Just to you to know, it's the ones who answer faster and correct. So both criteria. Okay, 35 people, great job. Okay, let's only consider the black one. So who is first? Felix. It's Winnie. The pandas is also here in 3rd position, so it's very close. Let's go to the next question. How many members are on PyLadies Munich meetup group? From today, because we have 4 people missing to make 1,000, so maybe someone from here wants.
That's a practical thing.
Yes, please enter in the PyLadies Munich meetup. When we make 1,000, will we raffle more tickets? Woo! Let's see. We are, yeah. Doctor. Doctor is winning. Yeah, because, yeah. How many members do PyMunich has? Maybe 5,000. Is it 5,000?
Maybe after this meetup.
It's the biggest Python group in Munich. So.
In the world.
In the world. In Germany, maybe.
I make a Trump face and I say.
Oh, 23 people got that correct. Let's see who is winning now. Doctor, you're out. I'm disappointed. JJ is winning. So Kevin is the second place, so it's very close. Let's see, let's go to the next. It's getting harder. Format strings were introduced into Python in which version? This one I know. Which version? 49 answers, 51, yes, I think 52, 53 answers. Let's wait. Oh. People are sad. It was the version 3.6. A lot of people thought here that was 3.7. I agree, it's really close. Edward just entered.
Edward is in the game.
Yeah, Edward is on the game. It's the vampire Edward. So the GGG is still on top. So let's advance. In Python 3, which built-in library offers URL parsing capabilities? This one is hard, but you still have 25% of chance to get it correct. I swear it will get easy. Woo! This is great. Congratulations, you're real Pythonistas. So let's advance. How many except statements can a try except block have? 1, 0, more than 0, more than 1. Which one you think it is? We have 40 answers now, 46. People who are online, maybe they are playing better with the on-site pressure. Woo, more than 0. Not so many people got this one right. So I remove my congratulations. We are still in evaluation here.
Oh, I love this method.
Who is this person? It's continuing the same. Let's destabilize.
There's a lot of drama.
Yes. Which variable is defined correctly in the current Python version? What do you think it is? It's when you're dealing with typings. How should you do it? There is one correct way of doing that. So yeah, first you define the variable, then you define the type, and then you do the assignment. A lot of people got this right. We're gonna continue. Oh, someone is really fast. We're not gonna mention him anymore, or her, or I don't know. Which of the following data type is immutable? List, dictionary, sets, tuples. I expect 100% correct in this one. But yeah, we have 2 tickets, so the second position is still there. You can still win it. Tuples, yeah, only tuples is immutable here. something drastic happened because Kevin got the first position and Rafael Kubler got the second one. DJ is a bit out now, so I'm not. We're going to continue because there are more questions. What's the current stable version of Python? This version was actually released this year, and it's supposed to be faster, 60% faster than the previous ones. You know which one it is? It's not Python 3.10. Kevin, DJ is back. Edward is on fire, but is in third position. But you can still win, Edward. And pandas, polar bear, and bear, you are also there. I see you. Whose birthday is today? Guido, Beyonce, Linus, or Olga?
That's a good one.
She's celebrating her birthday with her friends now.
So we are not her friends.
We are also our friends in our family. Okay, pandas, you are in third position. You can still make it. Kevin, you are, yeah, very good, doing very good. Python 3.10 introduced which new keyword? This keyword didn't exist in Python before, and it started in Python 3.10. If you have attended my talk, you would know which keyword it is. Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, let's see. Match, yeah. I gave a lot of talks about pattern matching, and it was introduced in Python 3.10 in October last year. It was the last release of Python 3.10. So Kevin is in first position. Oh, panda is out. Who killed the panda? Yeah. Now I have more competitors here. Which serialization format is secured by default? So you see that nobody is safe here. Panda was just on top and now he's out. So people answer really fast. Are they answering correct? Just to remember, this ticket should go to a PyLady, so we're gonna get contact of your friend. Or you. Jason, yeah. Let's continue. Pickles, you shouldn't use pickles. It's not changing so much. A test for an individual part of code is an unit test, a functional test, an regression test, or an integration test. This one also is going very fast. Good that the answer is not in the question, but I hope everyone here will be able to answer or to learn something new. Ooh, congratulations. So let's continue. We are almost there. Ooh, Kevin, now it's very stable. Kevin is in the first position and Edward in the second. When will the else part of try except else be executed? This is hard. Is it? So always when exception occurs into except block, or when no exception occurs. We have 4 or 5 answers. We are waiting everybody. Ooh, not everybody was able to answer. Was this one? This game is changing dramatics. If someone talks with Kevin, I think he'll be out. Python sorted functions uses what sorting algorithm underneath? Team sort, insertion sort, quick sort, Google sort. Team sort. Not so many people got it right, but it's okay. Also, oh, now Kevin is out. Edward is also out. It's changing. Which tools are not infrastructure as a code here? I also expect you get this correct. Yeah, Jira is not is actually for ticketing. So you may love Jira or don't like Jira, but it's not an infrastructure as a code tool. So let's advance. We are almost there. Which of the following as an alternative is an alternative to Python distributed? Gecko, Anaconda, Lizard, or Worms? This is difficult because some here are reptile, and we know that reptile is related to Python as well. So you may get confused here. Okay, a lot of people got it right. It's Anaconda. It's the final one. It's which of the following is popular library for data manipulation? Raccoons, pirate, capybaras, or pandas? Oh, this was very fast. It's pandas. Ta-da-da-da. Let's see who is in the first one. Kevin is in the third one. Alex, Matt, and the first one goes to Rafael. So,
Rafael, where are you?
Alex, Matt, where are you two? Oh, and the Kevin? Great.
It was a tough battle. I think in that corner they have some knowledge concentration.
You have to spread out more. Yeah, they come for each other, maybe. No kidding. So the first one, the first winner and the second winner, we can talk after this and discuss the prize. Big applause for everyone because I think you learned something. Thank you.
Very good. So we're done with the quiz, and since Stylight is not kicking us out, we really have to take advantage of this. Like most of the hosts would say, nice time, but not Stylight. So let's say them a big thank you and big applause. So
thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a very big challenge. It's another competition. We need to empty their fridge. We need to finish all the beer. But before we go to this, I will thank all of you. And let's say a big thanks to our PyLadies.
Yes, and also.
And the crew that is here.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the people who are.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. We will put on some music and looking forward to network with you. Let's have some chat. Thank you.
Bye.
Not bye.
For the online people.
Bye.
I need la música.
See, la música is coming right now.
Oh, we have a DJ here.